Hola, everybody. Welcome to the Chats with Yvonne podcast with me, your host, Yvonne Armenta, where I talk about public speaking con cultura. And today, I'm going to walk you through my Shark Tank audition experience. We're going to talk about how I even ended up knowing and learning about the Shark Tank audition, why I decided to do it, why I almost decided not to do it, what my pitch was, how I would change it, and all of the different emotions that were happening during the audition itself. I will also walk you through exactly what it looked like, what the feeling was like, so that if you yourself want to audition for Shark Tank one day, you can use this as reference for your preparation. I am the founder of the Public Speaking con Cultura practice card deck. And one of my goals in 2025 is to really lean into that a lot more. There's so many things that go through my mind when thinking about the fact that I actually have a product. And it's a little scary to think about how big it could potentially be. But that's what my goal is. I want the Public Speaking con Cultura practice card deck to be in the hands of more people. And it is also very scary. I feel like I've been holding off on doing this larger promotion of them. And this year, one of my goals is to really lean into that, lean into the fact that I'm a business owner that has a product. It is very different than the service based product and consulting that I do. And so, for that reason, it's been really scary and challenging to step into this new arena. But in 2025, my goal was to pitch the product a lot more. If anything, for the purposes of getting more eyes on it and more exposure around it and just helping grow the business and the product itself, having it expand and be in more hands. So, when this opportunity around Shark Tank came up, I just thought that I would gain a little bit of knowledge and exposure to what the experience was like. I didn't think I would be auditioning for it. Before we get into the full experience, ya saben, let's pull out a card from the Public Speaking con Cultura practice card deck. And today I'm going to use the affirmations because it's one of those days. This is the third time that I'm actually starting this recording because technical difficulties. Pero bueno, we are going to pull out a card y a ver qué nos dice. I embrace all opportunities that allow me to share my voice. Acepto todas las oportunidades que me permitan compartir mi voz. See, I don't know, y'all, but this is perfect for right now and going into the Shark Tank experience because it is literally one of those opportunities to share my voice. If anything, share my product, my voice, gain an idea of what it's like to pitch your product in this capacity, in this way. And I think this is a perfect affirmation to lead us into the Shark Tank experience. Something that I want to point out is that whenever you read an affirmation from the Public Speaking con Cultura practice card deck, I ask you to convert it into a question. So in this case, if the affirmation is, I embrace all opportunities that allow me to share my voice, the question would be, do I embrace all opportunities that allow me to share my voice? Converting this into a question allows you to more deeply reflect on your internalization of the affirmation. Affirmations can be like a band-aid unless we really work for them. Affirmations don't work unless we do. I always say that. And engaging in that deep reflection is going to transform the way that you connect to this affirmation. So if your answer to that question is yes, I embrace all of the opportunities that come my way to share my voice. Amazing. You've internalized the affirmation. If your answer is no, sometimes, depende, we've got more work to do. And it's just simply about understanding where you are and where you want to go. So anytime that you use one of these cards, read an affirmation from here, convert your affirmation into a question and engage in a deep reflection on it. Journal about it, record a video of yourself answering that question and that prompt. Bueno, all right, let's get into the Shark Tank audition. How did I find out about it? I am a part of, unofficially, I'm a part of Founders Registry. And I say unofficially because when I came across Founders Registry, which is owned and operated, CEO is Anna, who is an incredible person. Y'all should really check out Founders Registry. They do incredible work with and for founders. They have so many resources, so much access, so much knowledge and ideas and just everything, right? From social media marketing to actual funds to the fun founders, right? They're the real deal. So check them out if you are an entrepreneur, a founder, and want to grow in your business and really gain a community too of other founders doing the same. I joined Founders Camp a few months back, and I met and connected with the most amazing people that are also founders. And the way that they think and talk about their businesses really inspired me and the way that I want to think and talk about my own business. And it's really interesting because as a public speaker, I know how to craft a message. I know how to talk about things. But the product, it's one, it's very different. It's a new venture for me, a new complete arena, like I said, but it's also very vulnerable to share something that you created. It's it leaves a lot of room for judgment. It leaves a lot of room for opinions, and that can be really intimidating and daunting. But being in this space has really transformed the way that I think about feedback, the way that I think about help and community. And so Anna was hosting a virtual Shark Tank audition information session where she'd walk you through a little bit of what the audition is like, because she's also been to an audition already before. Like this woman is incredible. And she brought someone in from a Shark Tank representative also to be in the room and answer some of our questions and talk to us about how to pitch, what to do for the audition, how to leverage the Shark Tank audition experience. And invaluable. I joined because I thought eventually down the road, this is something that I'll want to do. Not right now, but maybe down the road. And the information there was so valuable. I remember during the virtual workshop, I actually wrote down a question. My heart was pounding and I asked it. And I got a really great answer in return. I was like, okay, I'm prepared for the next time that I want to audition for Shark Tank. I'll be prepared. This audition was happening in Vegas, so it's a few hour drive from San Diego. We'd have to figure out staying there, all that, right? There were a couple of the founders that were already planning to go, and so I it was an option for me. I didn't know if I would do it. Como que no me animaba. I just want to know. I just want to have information. Y'all know, as introverts, we like to have all of the pieces and then make our decision about it. That's where I was in the process. And Olivia, Anna, Estrellita, their support around, you should totally do it, is exactly the reason why I decided to do it. If it had not been for them, I wouldn't even have considered it. I was just kind of there wanting to get more information and learn. I think it's incredibly important to be in a constant state of learning. And to me, that was one way of staying in the know, understanding what things I have access to, what the possibilities for me could potentially be. And I decided to audition. And then the LA fires happened. And a lot of the founders are in LA. They were impacted one way or the other, whether directly or indirectly. I think being there during the time was really, really heavy. And so there was no way for them to actually make it to the Shark Tank audition. And that to me, I was like, well, I don't want to go anymore. It didn't feel right to be accomplishing something without them when they initially were the ones that introduced me to the opportunity, when we were going to make it a whole thing, right? We were going to record ourselves. We were going to create content together, practice our pitches with one another. It was going to be a community effort. I wasn't going to be doing it alone. And when they weren't able to be there anymore, I said to myself, well, maybe I don't have to go either. It's not something that I have to do. Olivia, Anna, everybody was like, Yvonne, you need to go. You should go. We support you in going. And they shared a lot of other meaningful things with me that just transformed the way that I was thinking about it. I decided to go. There were a lot of things that I kept attaching myself to as reasons for me not to go. One of the reasons, I have a puppy, and I needed to figure out what we were going to do with him. We were only going for 24 hours, meaning the night before being there the day of until I was done with the audition and then driving right back home. But this was the first time that I was leaving him. I was really stressed about what would happen. My friend Janitza ended up being available. I fed him. We fed him, left him fed. The next morning, she came by, fed him again, let him out, played with him a little bit, and then we were back, right? So Janitza really came through with that. Then that was taken care of. And I was like, okay, well, that's not an excuse anymore. And then I started thinking to myself, well, it's a long drive. We're driving at night. We're really tired. Maybe we should just not go. I can just do it some other time. I'm sure the opportunity will come up again and I can just do it then. Well, my boyfriend, my partner, was like, no, you already said you're going. Like, just do it. Beans, that's my puppy's name, is already taken care of. Let's just go. Okay, we're driving there. Well, the winds were really bad. It's nighttime. I can see the palm trees just swaying back and forth very harshly. That was scary, especially around everything that was happening in LA and just feeling uncertainty around everything. I was like, maybe we should just turn back, because what if, and this is my mind going everywhere, right? I was like, what if the fires somehow make their way over to San Diego and Beans is stuck in the house by himself and we're stuck hours away? Like, I don't want to deal with that. And my boyfriend was like, Yvonne, that's not going to happen. We're already on our way there. We were about an hour in. To me, an hour is still close enough to where I could turn back. And I kept asking, well, what if we turned back right now? Like, nothing's going to happen if we turn back. He's like, yeah, but what could happen if we decide to just keep going? And so along the way, everything just kind of kept aligning itself. I was worried about, where are we going to stay? We ended up staying at a friend's mom's house who let us spend the night there. And that was a huge help. So that things were just aligning and were perfectly aligning for me to show up that day. I had someone, Olivia, actually, I'll call her by name. Olivia had said, Yvonne, I'll help you with your pitch. Send me your pitch and we can practice and go back and forth. I was procrastinating so much on this. And I think part of me was thinking, well, maybe I just won't go to it, that I didn't spend as much time as I should have on my pitch. And by should have, I mean, I don't ever mean that maybe the pitch that I delivered was okay, it could have been great, who knows? But I mean my own feelings around it and what I wanted to express through it. So I procrastinated on the pitch. As I'm driving to Vegas, I'm working on it, deleting sentences because we had 90 seconds to do it. And the next day, I woke up at 4 a.m., practiced it some more. I actually have a lot of behind the scenes stuff and me practicing the pitch as well. So if you want to check that out on the actual YouTube channel, that will be out on Thursday. Today's Tuesday. We'll go out on Thursday, and you'll get to actually see what I'm talking about when I go through the audition. But everything just aligned for me to be there that day. And as much as I didn't want to do it, I knew that part of me actually did really want to experience this. Even if it was just to say, hey, I had the experience of auditioning. I can do this again. It's like public speaking when you haven't done it for a really long time, or it's the first time that you're engaging in the art of public speaking. We have to rip the Band-Aid off so that you know what the entire experience was like and say, okay, that was good, but I would like to change these things. Or now I know that this is what's actually happening, what actually goes down. Let me prepare way better for that next time. Anyway, I have my community first and foremost. Is the reason why I'm rambling on and on about how this experience actually came to be. My community is the exact reason why this was made possible. From the exposure from Anna, from Founders Registry, about what Shark Tank auditions were even like, how to prepare, what to do. The fact that I even knew about the Shark Tank audition was because of them, was because of Anna. To, hey, we're not able to go, to, but you should still go, and inspiring me and motivating me and giving me words of encouragement when they're going through it in LA. To, hey, I'll help you with your pitch, to my partner driving us out there, to my friend Janitza being able to watch my pet just staying, having someone that supported us in staying the nights at their place. It just, everything was in perfect alignment, and my community meant so much to me in those moments. Even Olivia, was even texting me, sending me voice notes and text messages that were so inspiring as I was reading them, and they were hyping me up to actually do this. The next day, the actual audition. I had been crafting my pitch. There is an application that you have to fill out that asks you information about your business, how long you've been in business, what kinds of business you have, a little bit more on your numbers. I'd say that the application covers a lot more of the logistics of your business and what you're actually looking for. So you take this application with you, you have it filled out, but also if you don't have it the day of, they have a form that they give you. And so even if you don't have the other application done, they at least need one of those pages. And they really don't even end up using the entire application actually. So I don't know. I don't want to say don't fill it out, but it was actually helpful to fill it out in developing my pitch. So you fill out this application and you take it with you the next morning. Doors opened at 8. It was at the Venetian. CES was happening at the same time. And it was funny because I'd never really been to CES. Obviously, I had heard of CES. It was bringing me back to my tech world. And I had seen executives and team leaders present at CES before through the companies that I worked for, but I'd never actually been at CES. So it was really cool to be there, specifically auditioning for Shark Tank with my own product, my own thing outside of an actual company or a job, right? So that was really cool to think about in the first place. Doors opened at 8 a.m. They started distributing wristbands from 9 to 10. So that was the window. If you didn't get a wristband during that time, you just didn't get a wristband. I'm sure maybe they were a little lenient, but you had to be in line between 9 to 10. You couldn't start lining up before 8 a.m. I leave the place where we were staying at around 7. I get there at 7:30 and I'm like, okay, this is enough time for me to go to the room. I try to find the room. Impossible for me to find. I am something to know about me that if you really know me, you'll start to know this. I'm geographically challenged. I cannot. Don't ask me. Don't ask me to be GPS. Don't ask me if you're turning left or right. I don't know. I know landmarks. Hey, the yellow building. Turn left at the yellow building. That I can follow. But I couldn't find this room where the audition was being taken place. And with Vegas already in and of itself is like one giant loop of restaurants and bars, and everything just looks the same there. I'm like, wait, this is connected to this. I didn't even know that, right? Everything is connected. You could spend a whole day. Actually, you could spend a whole week in Vegas and not even go outside, and you'd still somehow go into. Anyway, so because I didn't have a CES pass, I had to go out the hotel room, in through a different one to make it back to the same hotel room just from a different entrance. Eventually, I found out that people were complaining about that and they just had a straight entryway into it that I had passed multiple times. It took me about 45 minutes to actually find the line for the audition, which stresses me out. If you know anything about me, I like being on time. I don't like stressing about all this other stuff. And I like to leave a lot of room for me to think and be in the space and observe y toda la cosa. Didn't have that time. But anyway, I think it also kind of helped me focus on that instead of the nerves of pitching a little bit. But I did feel like crying a couple times when I was like, okay, I'm not finding this. My bag is hella heavy. I am sweating at this point. I'm going to look like I already auditioned before going into the audition. So I get there, I get in line. Eventually I find it. And as I was in line, I started thinking about, wow, all these people have this really cool product. I hope no one asks me about mine. I was like, I hope no one asks me what I'm here for. So I tried to avoid eye contact, which I now know, looking back on it, that is the wrong approach to have. If I'm there with other entrepreneurs and other founders, I should be connecting with them. I did connect with a few folks, but I think because this is so new to me, having an actual product, and I'm so new in my business. I launched in July 2024, hasn't even been a full year. I feel like there's something missing, like there's still more for me to prove before I'm there, if that makes sense. And I had to quickly get over that. I'm in line at around 9 something, and I get my wristband and they tell me that my call time is 4 p.m. I was like, oh, great. I'm going to be here all day. Amazing. So call time was 4 p.m. Great. But then I looked around and I was like, can I sit in here and wait? Because there was a bunch of seats in the room that we were in where we were getting our wristbands. And they're like, no, this is for the folks whose call time it is. I was like, oh, interesting. So the way that the room is set up is all of these chairs, kind of like think about a presentation style in a room, in a conference room. And there are 4x6 tables up at the front, multiples of them. I think there were 4 or 5 up at the front with one chair behind it. So it was when I realized that the audition actually required us to pitch our product in front of everybody else. I thought for some reason that I was going to go into a room with a panel of judges and present, which was scary on its own. But even scarier, the fact that other people were going to be there, that I was actually going to have an audience. Once you get into it, you realize that you can't really hear everybody and everybody's focused on their own thing. So it's one-on-one with one judge. You are presenting your product to them, your whatever it is that you're pitching. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but initially that made me even more nervous. Bueno, call time is 4 p.m. I realized that I'm going to have many, many hours. Mind you, at this point, it's already 9:30. It doesn't take that long to get the wristband. It's 9:30. I'm going to be out there for a really long time. I haven't had breakfast, so I should probably go have breakfast. Walked around Vegas for a bit. I was there with my partner, so we were walking around, and it was so funny because I found myself I was saying my pitch over and over and over again because I was wanting to memorize it and really get it down to that 60 seconds. I was practicing my pitch everywhere I was in Vegas. We went to breakfast. I sat there saying my pitch out loud. We were happened to be sitting at a bar because everything is a bar in Vegas. I was saying my pitch out loud. And it was driving me crazy that we were in Vegas. I hate the smell of smoke and cigarettes, and it was driving me absolutely crazy that I felt like I was going to smell like cigarettes during my Shark Tank audition. It just was not it. But there I was, and I had to wait for my call time, and they didn't let you go into the doors until it was absolutely your call time. So I started to slowly make my way back. I stopped by a coffee shop in Vegas and also did a little bit of more work. I found that what really helped me was that I was actually doing my own work, meaning my public speaking consulting, chats with Yvonne stuff, and sending emails, and it took my mind off of the pitch for a little bit, which at that point I had already not perfected, but I had memorized it. I had memorized what I had written. And I was like, it is what it is. Having that much time in between when I first got there and my call time, I think got me to a point where I said to myself, at this point, I just want to get it over with. Ya no me importa que esté nerviosa, ya que, ya me estoy cansada, I'm tired, and I just want to get this over with. So 4 p.m. comes around and I was already there. I didn't make my way over at 4 p.m. I was there by 3 waiting to see if I could line up because I wanted to be one of the first ones in my group to get it over with. But they actually go by number. So even if you are, let's say, 425 and your number is 430, but you're in line before 425, number 425 will still go before you. They're really organized in that way. When it's your time to be there with a group, the lead recruiter or casting person for the TV show for Shark Tank gives you a spiel about what to expect, what to do, what not to do, what you can share, what you can't share, how you should really hype yourself up to deliver your pitch. One of the things that I noticed that they mentioned was, and I had heard this when I was outside of the room waiting for the group before me to go, was that whatever you need to do right now, take a shot of espresso, whatever you need to do to get that energy up because you need to wow us. You need to be loud and you are auditioning essentially, right? When I sat there and heard this, I was like, yeah, you're auditioning for a TV show at the end of the day. They want you to be loud and bold and unique and interesting. And immediately, as an introvert, I said to myself, oh my God, that's not me. I'm not going to get it because that's not me. I'm not going to be all energetic when I deliver my pitch. Yes, I'm energetic in a different way. And something that I guess I hadn't even thought about was that at the end of the day, this is a TV show and they want some kind of drama, some kind of entertainment. In that moment, I was like, I'm not entertainment. I'm not the type of person that Shark Tank would potentially actually want on their show, because I'm not going to bring TV ratings. And I don't know if that added more pressure or if that took pressure away, but it definitely reminded me that I live in an extroverted world. That as introverts, we always, we're constantly asked to do more, to be louder, to get the opportunities. And that immediately took almost all my self doubt away about my product and about the work that I do. It's almost like I needed that. I needed to hear that, to be reminded that, gosh, as soon as I heard them say that, it made me feel like I wasn't up to par with that. Like, that is not who I am, and therefore I'm not going to get this and receive this opportunity. And if I want to, I have to act a certain way. I have to show up a different way, which is often necessary for getting funding and as an entrepreneur, right? I'm not saying that there aren't moments where we have to act and just show up even when we really don't want to. What I'm saying though is that it really made me think about how powerful my message of leaning into our introversion actually is. And it made me realize that this is why it matters to me. Because when these moments show up and you hear people say, you have to be louder and go take a shot to get that energy, whatever you have to do to bring the energy, bring it. Because this is your one opportunity. It's so that the work that I do is so that when an introvert is called to show up in that way, they can do it, they feel equipped to do it, but it's grounded on a foundational understanding of self and integrity and following your own internal process to decide if this is the space that you want to show up in as this. If you're expected to show up in this way, do I need to do it to get funding potentially? Or do I just not need to do this? And that was really powerful for me. So it kind of changed the way that I thought about my pitch and saying, oh, it is a pitch, but it's also a pitch for a TV show. So if anything, this is great practice for me. And I leaned into my product a lot more. I changed a few things, so I even think the one I have written down here isn't even what I ended up sharing. But with that being said, I am going to share what my pitch actually was. Hola everybody, I'm Yvonne, and I want to introduce you to the first and only of its kind Public Speaking con Cultura practice card deck, designed for introverts and Latinas. Public speaking was popularized by extroverts, who made us all believe that to be great pretty much at anything, you have to be bolder, louder. Around 50% of the population in the US describe themselves as introverts. Latinas are still too often made to feel that it's safer to stay quiet, especially in spaces that lack cultural relevance. There's no wonder 75% of the population has a fear of public speaking. We're changing that by making public speaking fun, culturally relevant, and focused on skills building via our 78 plus prompts. In 6 months since launching, we've organically, through word of mouth and social media, generated $6,749 in sales. Today, I'm seeking $50,000 for 10% equity to help create targeted marketing campaigns, cover manufacturing costs, and reach more schools, corporate employees, and community leaders. That was my pitch. Is it good or bad? I don't know. But it's what I came up with, and I want to walk you through. And maybe I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a YouTube video dedicated to this pitch and dissecting it together. Where could I have done it a little bit better? What things could I have actually pointed to? Because something else that I'll note about when I was putting this pitch together, I know my why. I know the story. I know why I created this product. I know where we are right now. We're in over 20 states. I actually think that's something that I added here, is that we are in over 20 states. I added that in the actual in-person pitch because I was like, wait, that's actually really good information, especially for having launched at that time that I auditioned within 6 months. And the part that I had to really do a lot of research on was how much am I asking for, why, and how much in equity am I going to give them. this is the type of language that I'm not always as used to using. And I had to do a lot of research when it came to this part, but also not undervalue. So, what I did was, okay, how much is a marketing campaign going to cost me? How much is a printing and manufacturing cost going to be? How much money do I want to dedicate to outreach, right? Being able to donate more of these cards so that more people can get their hands on them, saying, hey, I want to pitch this conference. It's going to require me to travel there and potentially go and seek the opportunity that way. So I accounted for all of my numbers there. I There's a couple different formulas to decide and to use based on the information and data that you do have about your business to decide how much it's actually worth. So I inputted my numbers into formulas. I started, and there's different ways of approaching the formulas that you use depending on what things you want to highlight about your business, and also as a receiver of this information, right? So if I'm asking for $50 or $50,000 and 10% equity, and they ask me what the valuation of my company is, they and ask me what method I use, they also use that to decide, okay, is it really worth that? All these kinds of things that I had to do research on that consumed my mind a lot more when I was creating the pitch, because those are the areas that I'm not as confident in. And so when and if you decide to audition for Shark Tank, spend a lot of time with those numbers. Spend some time understanding what valuation actually means, what equity actually means for you and your business, what you're asking for, and how much you're asking for in return for what percentage in equity. These are all really important things to consider, especially because what if I did get it and then now I'm committed to that 50K for 10% equity? Is that the right choice? Right? So is that the right amount? Should I have asked for more? Should I have asked for less? So that's where I spent the bulk of my time actually researching. And one thing that I want to note about my process when I was practicing in this pitch was, one, obviously saying it out loud multiple times once I got it down. But before that, and the reason why I think I didn't necessarily, which I should have done, but I didn't necessarily take my friend's opportunity to practice with her and share my pitch with her for feedback, was because I live in my head a lot of the time as an introvert. And what that means is I needed to make sense. I was making sense of my pitch in my mind. That was my practice. Before I even said it out loud, I would go on a run and I would think about the very first line that I would use. I was at the grocery store and I was thinking about how I would frame this certain aspect of public speaking, or how I would talk about the cards themselves. Fragmented as it was, my thoughts were my practice. There are times where you have to say it out loud to really internalize what you're sounding like. But as an introvert, it's also part of my practice to just internalize what I'm saying and think about it, so that by the time I say it out loud, it's already kind of good. It's not a first draft. It's maybe the second or third, maybe the fourth draft, I would say, by the time that I said it out loud. I delivered my pitch to the judge, and mind you, it's already 4 or 5 at this point. They were running a little late, so I didn't actually go at 4 p.m. It was more like 5:15ish. They've been there all day, right? And I've been there all day. So that was my one moment. I delivered the pitch. I actually recorded myself delivering it. Really weird angle, but I will be sharing that on YouTube this Thursday. If you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel and watch, that will go live pretty soon. And first, she seemed excited about the practice. And she said something that I found really interesting, which was that, wow, a lot of businesses these days, right, that she had seen come through are focusing a lot on confidence. That seems to be lacking. And that did something to my brain. I was like, that's interesting. That you notice that a lot of other products are also tackling confidence, but I'm not tackling confidence in public speaking. I think that when we think about it, that's the word that we automatically go to. But it made me think about everything that we do tries to target our lack of confidence. So many services try to tackle your lack of confidence is the thing that's keeping you from showing up in this way. If I were to say your lack of confidence in public speaking is keeping you from actually being a great speaker, I don't think that it is that. I think it's time spent on practicing, and I think it's lack of cultural competence in the world, right? So I wasn't going to go in to the details of that. And so I said, "Oh yeah, that's really interesting." Because we didn't have time for that, right? We had to keep it moving. She asked me a few questions about the product and to reaffirm what states they were in and how much I had done in sales so far and how I had made those sales. Didn't really ask me too much about the what I was asking for in return, because I think what they really want to know and get to know during these auditions is just you and your product and how many sales you've got, all of that, because the other stuff can kind of probably change before actually making it to the show. So she asked me questions about that. And then also said she really liked the look of them and the feel of them, which was really good feedback for me. I was done and I ran out of there. Okay, I didn't run out of there. I was really proud of myself. That's when I finally could intake everything that was happening. I felt like from 9 to 4, I was kind of just in a limbo. And after I was done, I was like, oh my gosh, I just did that. I really just auditioned for Shark Tank right now. This is a big deal. And it finally hit me. And I felt my shoulders relaxed, but I was so ready to go home too and go back to my puppy. I was sweating all day. It felt like I was sweating. I rewarded myself by going to my favorite candy store out in Vegas, which has all of this sour candy. I always get the sour red tape strips. So that was that. I won't hear about the Shark Tank audition until a few months from now, so we'll see how that goes. And if I don't get a call back, that means I didn't get the audition or didn't I'm not passing on to the next thing. But if anything, it was a really incredible experience to actually pitch my product and have other people hold my product and seeing them ask, having people in line ask me questions about it. And as hard as it was, leaning into it and saying, these are public speaking practice prompts. I created leaning into and really owning the fact that I have an actual product in my hands. Like, y'all, this is crazy. This is actually crazy to me. And I just want to lean into it more. I want to be more confident in my approach in it. And I want to really own the fact that this is what I do. This is something that I created and that I really believe in. It is going to transform the way that we do public speaking. I really have that belief. And auditioning for Shark Tank really opened my eyes to this is possible for me too. Esto es posible. Lo puedo hacer y lo voy a hacer. Shark Tank holds auditions ever so often. So if you are interested in doing that, if you yourself want to pitch your product, I would just Google Shark Tank audition coming up near me and see when the next one is coming up. I encourage you to do it. It was a really scary experience for me, challenging. I was tired, a lot of self-doubt. I wanted to turn back around many, many, many different times, but I am so grateful that I did it. I put myself out there. I took up space in a space that generally is not made for us, and I felt very uncomfortable and I felt very doubtful. But I did it, and it was one of the best experiences that I've had. It really helped me see myself and accept myself as a business owner and entrepreneur and founder. And that acceptance is everything. Once we accept ourselves for who we are and the greatness that we carry, nobody can tell us any different. And this was a really pivotal moment for me in my entrepreneurship journey. And we're going to go ahead and end with our segment on this podcast that's called Con Cultura. I want to just take some time to have a little bit of a call to action for all of us. I want us to spend time thinking about what we can do in our community and create an action plan for doing so. If your approach is to create or to be more joyful, what can you do today to do that? If you want to be more helpful and be maybe more connected to your roots, what kinds of things are happening in nonprofit organizations or community events that you can be a part of? If you have a specific skill set, how can you contribute this to our collective good? Our immigrant populations are being targeted every single day. Every single day. Even before this administration. But especially right now, it's so incredibly important to look out for one another. When you're out in the streets and you see something happening and you feel like it is safe to go and say something, be there. Just physically be there, present. This is my call for all of us to just be there for one another. We all want community, we all crave community, and sometimes we forget to actually be a part of a community. And what it means to be a part of the community is en las buenas y en las malas. I want to highlight Claudia, Presidenta of Mexico. I have been in awe of her. She is the exactly what happens when women lead, when women take positions of leadership. The way that she's been welcoming Mexicans back into Mexico, helping them with making sure that they are not, just humanizing them again. When here on this side in the US we try to dehumanize immigrants and familias that come to the US to have a better life, Claudia has been bringing that humanity back. That is, they're not chained when they're transported from the US back to Mexico. Once they get to Mexico, they're welcomed. There's a celebration there. Such a happy celebration of having them back home. And giving them resources to take them back to their families, making sure that the transition back into Mexico is as smooth as can possibly be. I think that obviously there's always going to be holes. There's always going to be someone that has a less than great experience. Ripping families apart is not a beautiful experience by any means. It's sad. It's devastating. There's people that have lived entire lives out here that going back home to Mexico isn't actually home anymore. But the fact that they can be received in their home country with open arms and say, hey, we're here for you. Here are resources, your actual resources to help you come back into Mexico is so beautiful to me. Every time that I see these videos, I get the chills. And more so, I want to talk about Claudia's ways of public speaking. If you've watched some of her speeches, the way that she communicates is so assertive and soft, if that makes sense. I can sense she's a Cancer, by the way. None of that matters compared to all of her other accolades, but I can sense the calmness in which she delivers information. She's to the point. If we were to dissect some of her speeches, she answers, uses really intentionally the pause, and continues. She doesn't have to raise her voice, her body, her expressions are not out here. They're not all over the place. They're not big and bold. They're cool, calm, and collected. And yet her power as a speaker is undeniable. In the next couple of weeks, I am going to be doing segments particularly around Claudia. If you want to follow along to see a little bit more of what I'm talking about, please feel free to follow on all socials, TikTok, Instagram, here on YouTube. I will be doing a more long form look into Claudia's, specifically her public speaking techniques, because I think there's so much we can learn as introverts, as women, as Latinas from her as a speaker. So I wanted to quickly call out the way that Claudia is moving and using her voice and her power to create a space where humanity is at the center. And it's coming from an informed, really skilled place. She knows what she's talking about and can't nobody tell her differently. But she doesn't need to raise her voice to do that. And she doesn't need to be bigger and bolder. All she needs to do is speak like herself. And I think there's so much that we can learn from that. With that being said, thank you all so much for tuning in today. If you'd like to see a little bit more of behind the scenes and the vlog from Shark Tank, please subscribe on YouTube. Check us out over there. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time. You didn't have to be here, but you chose to spend some time with me today, and I really, really appreciate that. Speak your mind in the comments and let me know what you think about this podcast episode. Subscribe, submit a review. Everything is so very much appreciated. If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to me about Shark Tank and my audition experience. I would love to share. Y con todo eso, gracias everybody. Nos vemos a la próxima.